There is a roll radius calculator, and basically when we unwind, again using an unwind example, one of the things that we know about this unwind as it's going to get smaller, we know that my RPMs are going to increase because the material going into your process generally travels at a constant speed except during startup or shutdown. You're generally moving this at a constant speed. So what we do is we put an RPM sensor on a roller in your machine, and we put an RPM sensor at the unwind. We know that as this unwind is getting smaller, we know the RPMs are always increasing at a linear rate as this is getting smaller, but we know that the RPMs at this roller are always constant because we're traveling in the machine at a constant speed. So what this controller does, it looks at this constant feed rate and it compares it to a known decreasing rate at the unwind, and it can literally calculate, looking at a constant rate here and a changing rate here, it can literally calculate the roll radius as it's getting smaller at the unwind and larger at the rewind. And once you know roll radius, as we talked about with other controls, once we know that radius, we know that we have to decrease the torque output of this drive mechanism at an unwind or increase at a rewind. Some advantages, they are an excellent replacement for manual control, relatively inexpensive, relatively easy to install because you're really just installing those RPM sensors at the unwind. You have to have a way to mount them on the unwind and at an idler roll in the machine. They do give you a true linear output relative to the roll radius, and obviously there's nothing in the way of loading or unloading. So it's easy to load and unload your machines. It's easy to increase the capacity of the unwind or rewind. All you have to do is change some of the programming in the RPM logic. They have minimal mechanical parts. There is some mechanical parts that do wear out, but minimal. And you can get limit alarms for low or empty status off of an unwind or full status at a rewind. And there is no material contact if your material is sensitive to that being touched at the unwind or rewind. Some disadvantages, again, they're open loop as the other two controls we talked about, so they don't know what the tension is of the web. They're just giving you an output relative to radius. So they can only control unwind or rewind zones. The control logic is somewhat complex. There is some logic in there that may need to be calibrated from time to time. It needs initial calibration, obviously.